Jabari the inbounder into Kevin Durant. Durant for three. Yes, he got it! Kevin Durant gives the Rockets the lead! 100-97!
On January 16, 2026, the Rockets beat the Minnesota Timberwolves 110-105. And that game is the clearest example of the Kevin Durant-Alperen Şengün problem. Durant finished with a season-high 39 points, creating an efficient offense against one of the best defenses in the league. Şengün added 25 points and 14 rebounds, scoring inside, drawing help, and extending possessions. Between scoring and playmaking, they were involved in 77 of Houston's 110 points, which is an unusually high share for a duo in a game like this. This raises a bigger question for the rest of the NBA. Durant is still operating as a primary scorer in his late 30s. Şengün is producing at a star level as an interior scorer, rebounder, and offensive hub. When they're on the floor together, defenses have to pick from a set of options that all give something up. In this video, we are going to break down why this pairing works so well, what the numbers in recent games tell us about their ceiling, and how much pressure they put on opposing game plans. Because if this is what they look like before the break, the real question is what this will look like when everything slows down in a 7-game series. Last season, the Rockets' identity was built on defense. They finished near the top of the league in defensive rating, but their offense sat closer to the middle of the pack and struggled when scouting tightened up in the playoffs. Teams focused on Alperen Şengün, sent extra bodies at his post touches and elbow actions, and were comfortable living with contested jumpers from an inconsistent perimeter group. The Golden State series made those issues obvious. The offense slowed down, late-game shot creation became a problem, and Jalen Green's streaky scoring and decision-making hurt their half-court reliability. With limited spacing, defenses were able to load the paint, sit on Şengün's post-ups and handoffs, and turn Houston's possessions into tough, unsteady looks. The turning point came with the Durant trade. In a tight cap and apron environment, Houston managed to add Kevin Durant without stripping away its young core. Amen Thompson, Jabari Smith Jr., Tari Eason, and Reed Shepherd. While Durant arrived at 37, he still is an elite scorer, looking for a stable new home and a serious title runway after several turbulent seasons. Şengün moved into his prime years as a fully empowered offensive hub. Ime Udoka kept the defensive standard high while reshaping the offense around this new star duo, aligning the roster around a clear two-way identity that actually fits their best players. When we talk about Kevin Durant's role in Houston, it looks different from the typical late prime star carrying a roster on his own, and that's a big reason the fit with Şengün is working on court and on film. For the 2025-26 season, Durant is averaging around 26 points per game with about 5 rebounds and 5 assists, on roughly 52% from the field, over 40% from 3, and close to 89% from the free throw line. His true shooting percentage is elite for a high-usage wing, which reflects how clean his shot diet has become in Houston's system. Instead of living in isolation, a larger share of his offense now comes from actions where he can catch and attack advantages. Pick and pops and slips with Şengün, movement into mid-range, spot-up threes created by interior gravity, and secondary drives after a first action bends the defense. One way this shows up in the numbers is in Durant's advanced stats for this season. His true shooting percentage sits at around 62%, which is elite efficiency for a high-usage perimeter scorer. His usage rate is slightly lower than peak MVP level years, but his offensive box plus-minus still rank among the best forwards in the league, which suggests he's creating a lot of value per touch rather than just through volume. At 37, with 18 years of NBA mileage, this context matters. After several seasons on teams that leaned heavily on him to drive half-court offense, Houston gives him spacing, a real defensive structure, and a front-court partner who can initiate sets. Durant can focus on being an extremely efficient primary scorer and a secondary playmaker rather than a one-man engine, which is exactly the role his current numbers suggest he's optimized for in 2026. Alperen Şengün's role in this pairing is to function as a jumbo offensive hub who can both score and run the offense at a high level. This season alone, he's averaging around 20.8 points, 9.4 rebounds, and 6.3 assists per game, plus around 1.4 steals and 1 block. Those are all-star level numbers for a center and place him near the top of the league in playmaking volume at his position. His scoring efficiency sits just under 50% from the field, and while his three-point percentage is below average, the threat of him taking those shots forces bigs to step higher on the floor. Stylistically, Şengün operates from multiple spots: low post, elbows, and the top of the key. He runs a lot of dribble handoffs and short roll reads, often starting possessions with the ball or getting it quickly after the first action. When defenses send extra help at Durant, Şengün becomes the release valve who can make the next decision, attacking a smaller defender, hitting a cutter, or kicking out to shooters spaced around the arc. Recent games mirror this usage. In early February, he logged lines like 27, 11, and 8, showing consistent scoring and high assist totals for a big team. His advanced metrics back up the eye test: strong offensive box plus-minus, a positive on/off impact, and a playmaking profile that looks closer to some guards than traditional centers. In the context of the Rockets, Şengün gives Houston a second primary option who can initiate offense, which is what allows Durant to slide into a more efficient, less taxing scoring role without having Durant be playing on an island every possession. You see, the core of the Kevin Durant and Alperen Şengün problem is how they shape the floor on every possession. Any standard coverage you choose against them opens up something they are comfortable exploiting. When the Rockets play through Şengün on the block or at the elbow, sending extra help is risky. If you load up on his post touches with digs and hard doubles, you are effectively leaving an all-time shooter one pass away at the arc or in the mid-range. Durant's shooting profile means even semi-contested looks are efficient outcomes for Houston.
Durant circles, got by O'Neal, got to the rim.
If you try the opposite approach and stay glued to Durant at all times, Şengün is operating in a 4-on-3 environment, reading the help, with shooters and cutters moving behind defenders who were worried about overhelping off Durant. This shows up in Houston's team-level numbers. As of mid-February, the Rockets have an offensive rating of about 118, which ranks 7th in the league. They're hitting around 37% from 3, 6th in the NBA, which reflects how well they convert the open looks created by their two stars. At the same time, they maintain a defensive rating of roughly 112.8, 5th in the league, and a net rating over +5, which is typical of serious contenders. The idea of gravity compounding is important here. Durant's off-ball threat makes help rotations more conservative, so Şengün can take an extra beat to pivot, survey, and find backdoor cuts. Şengün's interior gravity forces overhelp, turning Durant into a high-volume catch-and-shoot threat rather than a self-creation machine on every trip. The supporting cast completes the picture. Amen Thompson attacks tilted defenses, Jabari Smith Jr. spaces and guards multiple positions, and wings like Tari Eason punish late or over rotations. Together, this has turned Houston into a team that can score efficiently in the half-court, in transition, and late in the clock, while still playing top-tier defense, the exact profile that tends to hold up in a 7-game series. For the rest of the league, the Kevin Durant and Alperen Şengün pairing is not just a matchup issue, it's a standings and playoff problem. As of mid-February, the Rockets are 34-20, depending on the exact cutoff date, sitting at 4th in the Western Conference and firmly in the contender tier rather than fighting for a play-in spot. Their net rating is roughly +5.2, one of the better marks in the league this season. Offensively, they are around 7th in offensive rating at about 118 points per 100 possessions and top 6 in three-point percentage at roughly 37%, which lines up with what you'd expect from a roster built around Durant's shooting and Şengün's creation. Defensively, they sit about 5th in defensive rating at around 112.8, and various tracking sites consistently show them in the top 10 for the season in overall defensive efficiency. That combination of a top 7 offense, top 5 defense, and a strong net rating is historically what you see from teams that make real playoff runs, not just regular season surprises. Mid-season report cards from the media describe Houston as a clear positive story, highlighting Durant's impact and the development of Amen Thompson and Reed Shepherd at guard, while noting that the Rockets' offensive rating has risen well above the league average after a slightly slower start. So when you look at the Rockets right now, you're looking at a team with top-tier efficiency on both ends, a star pairing that combines skill sets in a way that stresses every standard coverage, and a statistical profile that usually belongs to teams playing deep into May and June. The question going forward is how the rest of the West plans to deal with that over the playoffs. Right now, everything about this pairing points forward, so it makes sense to end by asking where it's all going. The first big question is Durant. He's 37 with nearly 2 decades of NBA mileage, but he's still producing and scaling his game next to another primary hub. Is this the last truly great version of Kevin Durant we're going to see, or has this specific context bought him an extra year or two at this level? The second question is Şengün. With this kind of perimeter partner, how far can he climb, both statistically and in terms of how teams have to guard him? If he's already putting up star numbers as a scoring and playmaking center, what does that look like after a full playoff run where the offense is explicitly built around the Durant-Şengün two-man game? The best-case 2026 outcome is straightforward: a deep playoff run, potentially a finals appearance, powered by a top 5 offense and top 5 defense that both hold up under postseason scouting. The risks are also clear. Durant's age and health will always be a concern, and Şengün's workload and physicality demands will spike when teams have a week to design schemes to bump, front, and wear him down. Whether they win the title this year or not, the Rockets have already changed the calculus for everyone else. This season, any team that wants to get out of the West has to prove it can slow down a playoff version of Kevin Durant and Alperen Şengün. Until someone actually does that over 7 games, this duo is one of the biggest problems in the league. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more deep dives like this, consider subscribing and leaving a like. Let me know in the comments how far you think this Rockets team can go, with Durant and Şengün leading the way.